idea, the root of it comes from Al-Mu'tazila, as you see. In the end, Ash'aris, which is about, they are also build their thoughts and most of their ideas on the Mu'tazila's foundations. The Mu'tazila, the Asha'irah start refuting Al-Mu'tazila, but subhanAllah, they're taking from them. They're taking from them. And in the end, the Asha'irah, the last form of Al-Asha'irah, became exactly like Mu'tazila, especially in the field of Allah's names and attributes, and taking logic over the Quran and Sunnah. And this is one of the main problems that cause so much damage to the people's belief and to the religion. May Allah to protect us all from that. With this, I will end my speech and relate to this sect, Al-Mu'tazila, and Allah knows the best. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam ala Nabiyyina Muhammad.
You are listening to Huda recordings.
الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. We talked today about two sects appeared in the Muslims' history. The first one was Al-Jahmiyyah, and the second one was Al-Mu'tazila. And we talked about what their beliefs, their views. And now we talk about another sect very much related to these two sects, because it affected so much with them in direct way or indirect way. This sect, which is I'm talking about today, Al-Ashariyyah, it's a very delicate issue to address, and it is very sensitive matter for so many Muslims, because vast majority of the Muslim school of thought today in the Muslim world are Asharis. The vast majority of the Muslims religious institutes in the Muslim world are Asharis. From the far west to the far east, from Morocco all the way to India, and all the way to Malaysia, Indonesia, and even to Philippines, you will find that Ash'ariyyah became something very strong. Also, Al-Ash'ariyyah, this sect or this madhab, was so powerful, and sometimes more than any other sect, and so popular. But vast majority of people are not Ash'aris. Even though if their governments, of their religious institutes are teaching the Ash'aris madhab, still the people, the public, they're not Ash'aris. And you will know why now. So, if anybody, for anyhow, not necessarily in this group, in this gathering, but I know this lecture will become, it's online, there's people listening to me online, there is people who will take the tapes, the tape might be, Allah A'lam how fast it's going to be spread, because this issue is not much of people have the courage to touch. And I'm not saying I'm brave or anything, but I'm just doing my duty as a teacher to the history of sects. Otherwise, I wouldn't like to confront with people unusually. This is not my nature. But I will say what they say, what they believe, and I believe you should have shame of what you believe. If you believe that, if you say that, you should have no shame to say it, or somebody else to say it, and to expose it, so the average Muslim will know what this sect and what this belief is. Inshallah, with justice, with being just, with not being adding my own two sentences or my giving my own interpretation to their words. I'm just going to tell you what this belief is and what is it about and why they are not the one who represent the way of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions, and why also it became so popular in the Muslims' history. First of all, I have to clarify a fact that Al-Ash'ariyyah as a sect have gone through different stages through the history. Some of them are very, very different from the other. The way to start was close to Sunnah. The way it end, it's very close to the Mu'tazila and Jahmiyyah, if it's not sometimes worse, as you just heard. So, some people mislead the public by saying, Ya akhi, the most scholars were Asha'irah. Yeah, but there is in the Muslim history where Asha'irah, great scholars were Asha'irah. But which part of Asha'irah they were? They were from the first stage, or the second stage, or third stage, or fourth stage, or fifth stage even. As you will know now. Al-Ash'ariyyah, us as a sect, been giving this name after the main founder of this group or this sect. His name is Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari. Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, who passed away 324 Hijri. 324 Hijri. So they were in the 4th century in Islam, the start of this group. It started as some philosophical idea been adopted by Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, and he learned it through his sheikh, a man, his name Ibn Kullab. Ibn Kullab. Ibn Kullab is a nickname. He been called that name because Kullab is the hook. The hook. Kullab is the hook. They said they give him that nickname because whenever he speaks, whenever he addresses people, he used to collect people's heart like the person when he collect his stuff with the hook, or collect the things with the hook. He collects people's heart this way. So he been called Bin Kullab because he was able to take over people's heart very quickly. Very good speaker. Another one, we always say that this sect became famous because there is somebody who knows how to talk. He started talking about small issues, Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari. Then the people came after him, they developed this madhab, as you will hear now. It became, after it was just some philosophical ideas mixed with the hadith, with Quran, with Sunnah, with what the Prophet companion said, with the knowledge, or with the knowledge of Al-Kitab wa Sunnah mixed together. It ends up to be a mix between philosophical ideas and Sufism together, especially in the time of Al-Iji and after that. Actually, Asha'irah been developed through the history to be in the end a sect which is talk a lot about philosophical ideas, some Jahmiyyahs and Mu'tazilis views, and Sufis, and even people who are attached to graves and worship graves. They entered this sect and start giving their opinions and giving their thoughts. And also they mixed a firqa, or a group, it's called Al-Murji'ah, who have a corrupted belief in the meaning of faith, Al-Iman, with also another group, which call them Al-Jabriyyah. They have another corrupted belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creed, Al-Qadar, as I said about Jahmiyyah. They all mixed together to make the final phase of Al-Ash'ariyyah. The final phase Al-Ash'ariyyah. فهي كلامية, عقلانية, فلسفية, صوفية, مقابرية, مرجئية, جبرية. In the end. Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, we will talk about him, inshallah, in detail. But this sect started in the 3rd century of Islam, in 240, around 240, 230s in Islam, as an ideas Ibn Kullab used to teach. And he has some followers. He has 3 main followers. One of them, his name Al-Qalanisi and Al-Muhasibi, very famous person. Al-Muhasibi has a lot of books. He was in the time of Imam Ahmad, has a lot of books about raqa'iq and the hereafter and how to soften your heart. He was like kind of a guy who always talk about, yarhamukallah, about issues related to the heart and how the person can be righteous and things like that. And Al-Ash'aris. They have only 2 main issues they were focusing on. One, they deny or reject the concept that Allah Azza wa Jal does things whenever He wants. They said there are certain actions Allah do it sometimes and He doesn't do it sometimes. They said this concept is rejected. For example, Allah Azza wa Jal, His mercy, been giving sometimes to some people and sometimes He wouldn't give His mercy to some people. Anger, Allah His anger will be given to some people other than some. Not all the time He's angry. Sometimes He will be angry when somebody committed sin at Him, and sometimes He will not be angry at him. For example, they said Allah Azza wa Jal, we read in the Quran also that Allah Azza wa Jal talks whenever He wants, and He will not talk whenever He doesn't want to talk. We see in the Quran and Sunnah also Allah Azza wa Jal comes down to the heavens in the last third of the night, not in the beginning, in the last third of the night. So He comes down whenever He wants. He wouldn't come down the moment the time He doesn't want. Allah will comes to the earth in the day of judgment, but He doesn't come now. In the day of judgment He will come. They said this would call Allah's actions, which is based on His will, أفعال الله الاختيارية. It is Allah's actions which is related to His will. He do it sometimes and He doesn't do it sometimes. The Asha'irah has a big problem with accepting this idea. They said, no, we cannot accept this. Why? I'll tell you why. Even though I'm supposed to talk about it later. But since I mentioned, I will tell you why. They said, because if He does it sometimes and He doesn't do it sometimes, these things became something new. Yani Allah wasn't talking, then He started talking, and He wasn't talking now, then He talked. This talk something new. And they made a rule from their own selves, again, from their own selves, not from Quran, not from Sunnah, from their logic. They said, anything can contain new things, it became something new. Or something being created. How? Why? You might, why are they saying that? It's interesting to know the history. The history behind this, that they had a debate with the people who deny God existence. And they said earth created itself. The nature is the mother nature, is the creator. They debated with them, the Mu'tazila, the Jahmiyyah, the Ashari. Before Al-Asha'irah, there is a debate going on. They told them, earth cannot be God. The other group said, why nature cannot be God? Said, because nature, there is always things new happen in it. So there is now rain, tomorrow night, day and night, day and night, summer, winter, new things happened. Okay? So if this is the case, if there is new things happening, that means that the earth is not something exist, or something has no beginning. It has to be has beginning, because there is new things happening in it. So it is itself a new thing. One day wasn't exist. That's the way they refute the idea of the atheist. They made this as a rule. Okay, they came to Quran, they found that Allah, sometimes He talks, and sometimes not. And He will come in the earth, but he didn't come before. They said the same concept. That means God, new things happen to Him. That means God also must be a new things, and this is not acceptable. What's the result? Instead of going back to their own logic, to their own rule, and correcting it, no, they came to Quran Sunnah and they cancel it. And they said, you know, this type of names and attributes, this type of Allah's actions, we have to cancel it. Anything related to His will is not acceptable. That's why there is no single Ash'ari believes in one of these actions of Allah, which is Allah do it whenever He wants and He doesn't want to do it whenever He doesn't want. They cancel it tamaman. They said anyone believe in that, like Ahl Sunnah, they are not even Muslims if they believe in that, because that means Allah is this and that. And they attack so much. Some of them were very harsh in this issue. This issue led them to also talk about Allah's talks and words, that He talks sometimes, He doesn't talk sometimes, and that was the main issues. Subhanallah. And Nabi Sallallahu warned us, there is one day will come, people will leave the knowledge and they start talking about Allah. In a sense, He should not, He should, He, and go into these things of details. And when that day comes, this is the corruption of the deen. And that's what happened. Those people start talking like that and argue. When they raise these doubts, Ahlul Sunnah must refute it. So more argument came to refute these ideas, to protect the religion. So it was in that time a very big fitna. طيب. The second stage, this is what Ibn Kullab used to teach and used to give, to write, and his letters, his teaching, all about this. The second stage, which was in the 4th century in Islam, Abu al-Hasan became a well-known figure in the Muslim world. And he did something, became so popular after it. You will note, inshallah, very soon. He accepted what Ibn Kullab said about that Allah Azza wa Jal, He doesn't do things whenever He wants. But he said either He do it, either he did it in the past and He doesn't do it anymore. He said that's what it is. Everything He wanna say it, He said it in the past once, but He doesn't say it anymore. That's his solution was. Anything from his action done in the past, he doesn't do anything anymore. Nothing related to his will. But he accept, Abu al-Hasan, he accept, and he said it clearly, that he believes in Allah Azza wa Jal, hand, face, that He's above His throne, that He's on the throne. He said even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has so many attributes, and he was in generally accepting Allah's names and attributes, or most of the attributes, except this type of Allah's action, this kind of actions. Abu al-Hasan also in that time came up with an idea, himself wasn't able to understand it. That's why the Ash'aris have over 100 interpretations to this word. Everyone say this is the meaning, and the other said no, this is what it means. What was that thing? It called al-kasb. It called al-kasb. What is al-kasb? He looked at the argument between al-Jahmiyyah and al-Mu'tazila, which is I mentioned earlier today, in Allah's actions, on the qadar and the creed, in the human being's actions. One group saying everything happened in this earth, Allah is the real doer, not you. When you kill, Allah is the one who did it, not you. So Allah is everything, you are nothing. That's one group, one extreme. Another extreme came, said no, Allah has nothing to do at all with you. Allah doesn't know anything about what's happening in the earth. Allah, He doesn't allow it. He doesn't know about it. He doesn't create it. He has anything to do with it. You create your own self, your own deeds. Another extreme. Abu al-Hasan came and saw the two opinions. He used to believe in the opinion which is that you created your own deeds and Allah didn't create it. But he changed his madhab later on when he rejected that madhab, and he came with something it called al-kasb. What is al-kasb? Al-kasb is, he said, we do things, but what we doing, it looks like you doing it, but in reality Allah is the one who doing it. He said our actions exactly like a person comes to a rock stuck between two mountains. You know, if there's two mountains and there's a rock stuck in the middle between them, and you come underneath of it and you put your hand underneath the rock. You looks like what? Carrying it or holding it, but in reality you're not. He said that's what it is. The real doer in all of our actions, Allah. But He is not, you are not. But you are the picture. Allah used you as a shape to do what He wants. That's why you will be punished, because you have role in it in the Day of Judgment. That's the best explanation he can give, or his follower can give to this concept. And they said, based on that, there is nothing happen because of a reason. They said, when you put your hand in the fire, fire will not burn you. Huh? When you bring the knife and you cut the apple will not be cut by the knife. What's that? So, who cut the knife? What cut the knife? What burned the hands? They said, no. It been burned when it came to the fire. It been cut when the knife touched the apple, but it didn't cut it, or the fire didn't burn your hand. All of this to run away from saying that there is anything has effect in the earth. They want to say Allah is the only doer in this earth. And everything, it is Allah, not anything else. I know, give you a headache, but that's what it is. Sorry. مما يقال ولا حقيقة تحته معقولة تدنو إلى الأذهان. Three things people said in the history of Muslims has no meaning. الكسب عند الأشعري والحال عند البهشمي وطفرة النظامي. The kasb, which is Al-Ash'ari said, and there is another idea called Al-Hal, Al-Bahshami, his Mu'tazili came up with. What طفرة النظام, there's a guy's Nazam, he came with the ideology called Al-Tafra, and these three things has no meanings. And by the way, some of them are exactly relative to some ideologies Western philosophers today are promoting. Without going to details. طيب. But it is interesting to know that some Western philosophers today, their theories are adopted from the same theory or concept of Tafrat al-Nazam especially. They also, Abu al-Hasan said that Allah Azza Jal, He doesn't do anything for reasons. Since He's the all-doer, He does whatever He wants because He wants. In this case, he was very close to the belief of Al-Jahmiyyah in this area. Abu al-Hasan Al-Ash'ari rahimahullah, he spent 40 years of his life Mu'tazili, believing in Al-Mu'tazila belief. 40 years. Then after 40 years, he repented. And he repented in very strange way. He stepped on Baghdad's minbar. Imagine, Sheikh, big scholar, alim. He came to the minbar and he stripped. He took his clothes out And he did this way, so everybody will remember this incident. How many times you have say almost a naked man in the minbar? Something you will never forget. And that's why it's a custom in the Arab before, when there is an army coming, they want to send somebody to warn the village from the army. They will strip him and will let him run between people. Because they're afraid he doesn't have time to explain there is enemy coming. Just when you see that, everybody knows there is enemy. That's why Nabi said, "Ana al-nadhir al-uryan." So he did that after 40s, and he said, I am taking off the Mu'tazili belief from my heart exactly the same way I'm taking my thawb out of my body. So nobody can say I'm Mu'tazili anymore. And he said, I will start practicing what Imam Ahmad used to preach and to believe. But the problem with Abu al-Hasan, his start, his foundation wasn't in Sunnah. He was not able to know much about the Sunnah and what the Salaf radiallahu from the Sahaba Tabi'in used to say. That was, he wasn't expert with their opinions. That's why when he repented, he started mixing some ideas, which is still in his mind from the past, with the Sunnah. But in general, he repented from most of these ideologies and ideas, which is Ash'ari today believe in it. And he authored 2 beautiful books. 2 wonderful books. Totally goes against what the Ash'ari believes today. One of them is Al-Ibana fi Usul al-Diyana, and now Ash'ari said, oh, this fabricated book, it's not his book, which is not true. There is so many evidence, there is handwritten copies exist that his students read this book with him, which is deny any people or reject anyone trying to say that it is not his book. But in the other hand, he wrote another book they don't mention, which is Risalatuh ila Ahli al-Thaghar. Risala ila Ahli al-Thaghar, which is a very important also book. He supported the Sunnah. He goes with most of what the Ash'aris today believe in that book, and both are printed and published. The third station, or the third stage that Ash'aris had, which is started in the end of the 4th century. And there is so many people who represent this stage. One of them is very famous. His name Ibn al-Baqillani. Al-Baqillani, very famous scholar, passed away in 403. And Ibn Furak, very famous. Has a book in Mukhtalaf al-Hadith. And Al-Baghdadi. Al-Baghdadi, 429. And those people, not Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi. Khatib al-Baghdadi min Ahl al-Sunnah. Al-Baghdadi, those people, or this faces, they were so attached to the Mu'tazili's beliefs, such as Bishr al-Marisi's ideas, the one I mentioned, Ibn al-Shuja', in twisting the meaning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and attributes, and they deny most of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes. They rejected, they didn't accept it. And in that time, the idea of ta'wil, which is a word, they giving it another meaning other than the obvious meaning. Like give you a word, there is an obvious meaning out of this, they give you another meaning, another interpretation for it. This idea started in 380 with Abu al-Hasan al-Tabari, who started this, but in indirect way. It's just started. And Abu Sulaiman al-Khattabi. It became more popular, this madhab. Why? Because in that time, some Shafi'i scholars accepted the Ash'ari's belief. Accepted the Ash'ari's belief. Then, usually most of them were Shafi'is, fuqaha. The Ash'ari was Shafi'i. In that period of time, Al-Baqillani, which is Maliki, great faqih Maliki, adopted the idea of Al-Ash'ariyyah. So the Ash'ari start to spread among who? The Malikis fuqaha. So that means a spreading in the Malik. When he write book in fiqh, he put 2 words from Ash'ari. He put the beliefs in Ash'ari here and there. So it became spreading among the Maliki. And a great Imam among the Shafi'iyyah, he's a great scholar, his name Al-Bayhaqi, also adopted the Ash'ari's belief, but he was very close to Abu al-Hasan in a sense. He believed in most of Allah's names and attributes. He did not twist the meaning of it like the rest of the people who came later on. Al-Bayhaqi was very big supporter of Al-Ash'ari belief, and he was one of the most important scholars among the Shafi'iyyah in that time. So again, that make the madhab, the Ash'ari, spread more. And Ibn Abi Dawood wa Ibn Thalji, they were Hanafi faqih. They have wrote books in Hanafi belief. So among also the Hanafi days, the ideas of Ash'ariyyah start crawling into the book of fiqh, the book of tafsir, the book of hadith, explanation of the hadith. They put their belief in it, they spread their seeds among the madhab. That led that madhab to the fourth stage, which was something shifting. And in that stage took the lead two people. One, his name Al-Qushayri, very well-known name, Sahib Risal Al-Qushayriyah, and Abu Hamid Al-Ghazali. 505 Abu Hamid passed away. Al-Qushayri 495 he passed away. Those two people, great names, well-known names in the Muslim world in that time. Abu Hamid, Hujjatul Islam. Al-Qushayri, everybody talk about spirituality he take from his books. They adopt the Ash'ari belief and they contribute to this belief, and they switch the Ash'ari belief from being a philosophical argument to become Sufi philosophical argument. They mixed the spirituality with ilm al-kalam, with the knowledge of philosophers. So they made another type, another switch, and whatever was only bad in the philosopher, they add to it what was bad in the Sufis. So basically they mix between two type of philosophers. The Buddhist philosophers, who Sufis take from their ideologies, and the Greek and the Roman philosophers, which is the Mu'tazila and Jahmiyyah goes to seeking the knowledge. So they mix these two type of philosophers, and the Ash'ari take totally another stage, which was one of the worst stage, but it was very bad stage, but wasn't the worst yet. In that time, they add so much rules from the Greek philosophers, the Romans philosophers, to the religion. More books translated, more new ideologies, and they were able to convince the follower of that madhab that most of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and attributes, instead of they were talking about just a small group of attributes, now they only accept 7 and the rest are not accepted. And the rest are not accepted from the attributes. More and add to it that appear in the Muslim world, shirk fil ilahiyya, worshipping other than Allah, became an ideas or some practicing of shirk been practiced by some of these people who add or contribute these ideologies to the madhab or the Ash'ari beliefs, and made it part of the spiritual practicing, such going to grave, going to people who are dead, go ask saints to intercede for you, the same way Catholic practice. Sallallahu Alaihi. And this, instead of was separate identity, mixed with the Ash'ari. No doubt in that time there is a guy, his name Abu al-Ma'ali al-Juwayni. He used to be called Imam al-Haramain, the Imam of 2 Haramain, Mecca, Medina. Imam here, Imam there. High rank, high position, well-known person. Imam in Mecca, it means everybody visit Mecca, he sees him. It means he has so much influence in the world, in the Muslim world, who passed 478. Abu al-Ma'ali, this man, before he died, he said, Wallahi, I enter the knowledge of the philosophers and I regret what I have done to myself. I gain nothing from this knowledge. I wish that I'm dying like any ignorant person among the awam. Because he got nothing, because he didn't study Al-Quran with Sunnah. Abu al-Ma'ali, this big name, Imam of two Haramain, when you read his books, you will know for a fact, as Ibn Taymiyyah said, he never saw Sahih al-Bukhari. He never read Sahih al-Bukhari in his life. The verse of Quran, there is Abu Bakr explanation to this verse. He will leave it and he will say some of those philosophers' opinions about it, and maybe it been narrated that Abu Bakr or Rasulullah himself said that, but he's so ignorant, he doesn't know what the Prophet, what the companions, what the Tabi'een, what the early Muslim scholars said about it, and he will quote from the philosophers and the people of Al-Kalam. In that time, it became very popular, the madhab very strong. Then the fifth phases, which was the very last and was the worst, it was by three names, famous names. Al-Fakhr al-Razi, which has a book, Tafsir, very famous book in Tafsir, Tafsir al-Razi, Tafsir al-Kabir al-Razi. 606 he died. This guy, he said before he died, نهاية إقدام العقول عقال وغاية سعي العالمين ضلال. He said, the end of all my thoughts, the last thing I reach after all this research and all this studying in my life is worth nothing. And everyone who entered this field, he just he'd been misled. And he said, because he entered the philosopher, the religion is not a philosophical things. The religion is very simple. Quran and Sunnah is very clear. Doesn't need all this complicated. If they follow the way of the Prophet and the way of the companions of the Prophet, they will be saved, but they did not. And he said, وَمَا اسْتَفَدْنَا مِنْ طُولِ بَحْثِنَا. We have collected nothing. After all this research, غَيْرْ أَنْ جَمَعْنَا قِيلَ وَقَالُوا. We only collected, he said, they said, he said, which is nothing. He didn't collect قال الله قال الرسول. And Al-Amidi, which is very well known. Al-Iji, another big name for whoever has study in this field. Al-Iji passed 756. In this time, you will see that so much of the Jahmis and Mu'tazilis ideas and ideologies were adopted by the Asharis. They said clearly, those late, the last phase and last two phases, they said it clearly. They don't feel shy to say whatever comes in Quran and Sunnah against our logic or our mind, we reject it. It was a rule been set up. Al-Razi in Asas al-Taqdis has a book called Asas al-Taqdis. He said anything goes against the logic, it has to be rejected. What logic? Their logic. Their logic. And clearly they refuted so many ahadith, and they said it cannot be accepted. They made fun of it, and they author books to support such things. Read, for example, the book of Badr al-Din ibn Jama'ah. Even he's a well-known scholar, but he fell in that trap. He authored a book to refute most of the ahadith which is reported about Allah's names and attributes. Suyuti, Jalal al-Suyuti, another one who failed in the Ash'aris beliefs. And also he authored a book only to switch and to refute or to give another meaning or to reject most of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes which came in the ahadith in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and some others. This has become something, they start saying it before Ash'aris. They cannot say something like that because they were attached to hadith and sunnah more, the earlier, like Al-Bayhaqi, Al-Baqillani, Abu Al-Hasan Ash'ari. Also started among the last two phases, this idea of attacking the Sahaba and the Tabi'een appeared. And this is the influence of Al-Mu'tazila and Al-Jahmiyyah, because that's what they use. The last two phases of Asha'irah, you see it clearly that they start attacking. And this idea of madhab al-salaf, the way of the Sahaba and the Tabi'een, was safe. But our way, more knowledgeable and more wise. Madhab al-khalaf a'lam wa ahkam. The way we deal with Quran and Sunnah, more wise, more knowledge than their way. But as-salaf, their way was safe. Okay, they believe Allah has hands, Allah has hands. Khalas. They said this is the way of that salaf, this is nothing. Us, we said no. Hand, it means power, it means he doesn't have a hand, he has power. We have the guts to say it doesn't mean hands, it means power. We tell them, subhanallah, this is the wise, this is the wisdom you got? They said yes, this is the knowledge we got. I said subhanallah. When Allah Azza wa Jal said to Iblis, to Shaitan, why you didn't prostrate yourself before Adam? And I created Adam with my own hands. What hands here means? They said power. I said okay, so what's the point of God saying to Iblis, I created him with my hand? Yani what's the point that Allah wanna makes by saying that to Iblis? What do you think? What the points Allah was making when he said to Iblis, I created him with my hand? The point, you following me, sisters and brothers? The brothers here are kind of lost, I don't know about there. طيب. Or online. The point is Allah telling Iblis, he telling Shaitan, why you would not prostrate yourself before Adam, and he's better than you because I created him with my hand. He's different than you. If hands here means power, God would say, Shaitan would say to Allah, so what, I was created with your power too. And I was created with what? But as Shaitan knows that hands, it doesn't mean power. Hand, it means hands. Because Allah only created Adam with his hands. We tell them, what is the wisdom that you claim that you have? What is the knowledge that you claim to have? Allah said, with my two hands, with my two powers. Allah have two powers? When Allah said his right hand, it means his right power. When Allah said he took with his hand, it means he took with his power, he accept with his power. When Allah said that this hand has fingers, it means the power has fingers. Where you got this from? What kind of knowledge that you have? What kind of wisdom that those people claim that they have? None of the Sahaba ever said that his hand, it means his power. Or his hand, it means his capability. They said his hand, it is his hand. They kept it the way it is. How his hand looks like? It is like our hand. No. His hand belonged to him. It's not like our hand. Exactly. He has a life. You have a life. Your life like his life? Your existence like his existence? Your knowledge like his knowledge? No. Can you say he doesn't have knowledge? He doesn't have life? He's not exist? You can't say that. Because if you said that, you're not Muslim. So if you're admitting that he has existence, he has life, he has knowledge, he hears, he sees, but all this different than ours. So what's wrong with saying also he has hands different than our hands? They are all the same. Why this you stuck with it? Why you don't say he has wisdom and his wisdom different than our wisdom? He has anger and his anger is not like our anger. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give them the light to open their hearts. That's why I'm telling you, even they are the vast majority who control the Islamic education in the Muslim world today, but most of the Muslims, they're not like that. Ask anyone here. Ask, does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mercy? He will say yes. Any Ash'ari, he doesn't believe that Allah has mercy. We never accept that. Or Allah Azza wa Jal has hand, or he's above his throne, or above the creation. That's something he will be so disgusted even to describe Allah with. A'udhu billah. Something not acceptable for them. Or has anger. No. You say, oh Allah, get angry at the kuffar. Yes. Any normal Muslims, he will say that. Any person, his education is, because sunnah is simple, but bid'ah is complicated. Anyway, also in that time, Sufis were able to have so much influence on the Ash'aris. Also, they started a very dangerous idea, which is you cannot be Muslim until you use your logic to prove the existence of God. It's not enough that you know Allah exists by only reading Quran and Sunnah. No. They came up with this idea, you have to think, which is lead to another dangerous step, which is Al-Razi came with. You have to doubt in order for you to be a believer. So they encourage people to doubt Allah. A'udhu billah. Yes, and this has been mentioned in their book. They said doubt is one of the first steps to belief. Check. And they said, oh, Ibrahim, he doubted. And this is a great lie. When Ibrahim said, oh, the sun, the moon, the stars. You remember his story with his people? They used this evidence to say he was doubting, then Allah guided him. No. Ibrahim said that to prove for them that they are wrong. When he said, this is my God, he didn't say it he believing that his God. He said, this is your God? That's what it is. So why he's disappearing? Where he goes? He was arguing with his people. Even to the extent some Ash'ari said, Allah, it means من الإلهة وهو التحير يعني تحار فيه العقول والألباب. Said Allah means the one people will be doubt about, which is a totally fabricated meaning, has no roots in Arabic. Also, if you want, go over their beliefs or their pillars of their beliefs, we go over it very quickly. One, the Asha'irah said the Tawheed, the concept of Tawheed, that's the first issue. The concept of Tawheed is Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, which it basically means Tawheed is to believe that Allah exists, Allah a creator, Allah is the creator, Allah is the sustainer, Allah Azza wa Jal is the owner, and He controls everything, and whatever He wants happen, and whatever He doesn't want wouldn't happen. This is Tawheed. If you do it, you believe her. Al-Baqillani said, for example, At-Tawheed, it means to believe that He exists, and He is only one, nothing similar to Him, and He is been worshipped, He hears and He sees. Al-Ash'ari Abu al-Hasan, when he said, what does Allah means? He said, Allah means the creator. And this is another innovation. Has no roots in Arabic or in Sharia. Allah, it means Aliha, it means Abada. Ibn Abbas, radiyallahu an, said, Dhul Ulahiyya, yani Dhul Ma'budiyya. Said, Ilah, it means the one you worship. It means the one you worship. The one you worship. Not the one who is a creator. What they teach today in the Muslim schools, in almost all over the Muslim world, what As-Sanusi said, في السنوسية, God is, or La ilaha illallah means, هو المستغني عمن سواه المفتقر إليه كل من عداه. He is the one who doesn't need anyone and everyone needs him. That Allah means. That La ilaha illallah means. To believe that everybody needs him, he doesn't need anybody. طيب. Shahristani, another great Ash'ari scholars, or one of their greatest scholars, he said that to believe that Allah wahidun fi that, He is one in Himself. One in His attributes, one in His action. One in His actions, yani nobody does anything with Him. He's the only doer, real doer, as I told you earlier about their belief in Qadar. One in His attributes, it means He doesn't do things after another. He did it once and that's it. He doesn't do anything anymore. So nothing done by His will. Yani He doesn't do anything whenever He wants. No, He did it once and that's it. Even the Quran, they said He said it once and that's it. they're more confusing Quran than anything else. Anyway, 3, he said 1 in his attributes, they said because he doesn't have, they said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's the only sustainer, is the only creator for the earth and the heavens. Muhammad Abdu, the Egyptian scholar, who was recently died, I mean he's like in the modern age, the modern century, this last century, he said in his book Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, believing in Allah's existence, it is al-ghayatul uzma min ba'that al-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is the main reason for Muhammad to be sent to humanity. Subhanallah. I don't know how those people read, how they can read Al-Quran and they're saying that. I just don't understand. Why? Because Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent to people who Allah told us about them, وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهِ. If you asked them who created the heavens and the earth, they would say Allah. قُلْ مَنْ يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ. Who his words go through, his order will be implemented and will be followed. And he's the only one who has the right to order in heavens and the earth. They would say Allah. Who's the one who gives life and death? They would say Allah. Who would say Allah? Abu Jahl, Abu Lahab, the kuffar. The kuffar who Muhammad was debating them, was giving them da'wah. That's what they believe in Allah. They believe that He exists, He's the creator, He's the only creator, He's the only sustainer, He's the only one controlled life and death, He's the one who provides, He's the owner, He's the king. They used to say, لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له إلا شريكا هو له لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إلا شريكا هو لك. They said, we believe that you are the Most High, no partner with you except one partner. No partner in you when it comes to creating, when it comes to providing, when it comes to giving life and death, controlling the heaven, the destiny of people. No one can be your partner in this area. But there is partner in another areas, which is worshipping them, feeding them like you, loving them like you. They have the right to legislate for us like you. They have the right to be followed like you, which is their idols. So the kuffar believed in general in this concept, which is Allah is the creator, but they never been a believer. So how come the Asha'irah claim that this is the main issue in Islam, or this is the meaning of Tawheed? You wouldn't see in their books any talk about something called shirk. This is not exist in Asha'irah's book. Only very few scholars you might. But when you read their book in Aqidah, they don't talk about shirk in a sense of worshipping other than Allah. That's why whenever the Asha'irah is the majority in the country, you will see that this country always have worshipping graves, asking saints, taking saints to ask them to intercede. All the acts of shirk appear under the protection of the leader of this sect. 2. They said that the first obligated in any person reach the age of puberty to think about Allah. Not to say La ilaha illallah. No, before he said it, you have to think. And to prove it logically that He exists. And this is a big bid'ah. Nobody ever said that. Some of them said the first obligation is to doubt Allah Azza wa Jal. A'udhu billah. Some of them, not all of them.
Please proceed to next CD.